Hey guys, what's going on? It's me, Jay. um, yeah, here to talk about something that I didn't speak about when it first happened, but I kind of wanted to wait until there was some uh, closure to it, and that's the Brian Thompson shooting. Brian Thompson, of course, the CEO of United Healthcare, who was shot in the early part of December in New York City by, we found out who, Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old kid who basically was upset at the healthcare system. Now they're digging into his biography, and immediately when it happened, people had a mixed reaction to it. A lot of people were kind of ambivalent to it slash happy about it that Brian Thompson was shot because people are sick of the healthcare system. They feel like many of them have, needed serious health care and they've been rejected by these billionaire CEOs like Brian Thompson. So they they felt like they're being shafted. They feel like they're the little guy, and this guy, being a vigilante, was finally taking justice into his own hands and taking care of what many people perceive as a problem of rich CEOs, the rich overcoming the poor. Now, immediately when this happened, it became politicized. You know, you had the right wing, like Ben Shapiro and stuff, saying that it was the people that were praising it was immediately the left, and people automatically assumed, oh well, this guy's a leftist. He must be on the left uh, side of the political spectrum, must be into leftist politics, probably into universal health care or Medicare for all type advocacy. So, and you wanted to feel like you eating the rich because remember in 2012 there was this debate um, that uh, of eating the rich, of the rich CEOs getting away with murder in various places, and it was including healthcare because this was around the time, the early 2010s, when the President of the United States, Barack Obama, was trying to nationalize healthcare in certain ways, with the Affordable Care Act. And you had the right wing saying that it was socialized medicine, and you had the left saying that, well, this is what we need. And then um, 8 years later, you had somebody like Bernie Sanders who just came out right and said, no, no more compromises with the healthcare companies. We're going to now have Medicare for all. Of course, Bernie Sanders, we know, was screwed out of the Democratic nomination by Hillary Clinton. But Medicare for all, this idea of Medicare for all, something that was part of the Democratic platform forever since the FDR days, and Truman tried to get it through, and uh, LBJ tried to get it through, and kind of did with Medicare and Medicaid with the Great Society in the '60s, but um, didn't really go far enough. And then Bill and Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton was the president. But Hillary, of course, in addition to being his first lady, many people believe that she was one of his advisors. He also tried to push for a public health care option because all Western nations, virtually all nations in Western Europe, and many of our allies, including Japan and Israel, have public, and Canada as well, have public options. A public health care system for not just the poor and the elderly, like Medicare and Medicaid, but for everyone, right? So they were trying to get it through, in the early '90s, and that resulted in the backlash, the Contract for America, which we talk about in uh, the '90s in review video, where in the middle of his midterm, uh, came in some of the staunchest Republicans that you can imagine, fiscal Republicans that you can imagine, led by Speaker of the House at that time, Newt Gingrich. You know what I mean? So, and that was one of the biggest debates. They didn't want health care. So then when Obama comes in, right, he tries again to do it, and he does it. He does it with a statewide model that Mitt Romney, who would eventually run against him in the 2012 election, used. Before it was Obamacare, the ACA was modeled on a state-run healthcare plan that Mitt Romney used. But of course, repeal and replace, repeal and replace. This was the mantra of the Tea Party Republicans, both when they got into Congress in their midterm elections in 2010, and again trying to run on it in 2012. So, and then we fast forward to 2016, it becomes an issue in the DNC primaries, like I said, with Bernie Sanders, and Trump also is running on this thing. He's no longer a Tea Party; it's MAGA now, and but he's also running on repeal and replace, right? So we get down to Trump's first year. Like that was one of his first initiatives to replace the Affordable Care Act, especially the individual mandate portion of the Affordable Care Act, with something else. So we get down to the vote to repeal it, right, by Congress, and by one vote, John McCain's thumb, the infamous thumb, John McCain votes it down. And that's the end of it. And eventually, one of the vitriolic responses, ironically, against Trump was, the people, the American people wanted to keep the ACA. They kind of grew to like the ACA. But again, people on the left felt that the ACA wasn't going far enough. So anyway, long story short, people would thought this guy Mangione was a leftist, right? A leftist vigilante. Turns out he's not a leftist. He's a right wing guy. You know what I mean? So now all the right wing commentators are going to have egg on their faces because he he's a men's right. He follows a lot of men's right activists. He is, I think, a proponent. He's a believer in the great replacement theory in certain ways. Um, and he's written a manifesto. Now I don't know if his manifesto is um, anti-rich, kind of a populist sort of guy. You know what I mean? I don't know because his manifesto wasn't released, but he seems to be that type of person. He had a back injury that he spoke about on his Twitter account, his X feed, and I'm sensing that maybe he was denied certain coverage by United Healthcare, which was probably his healthcare provider, and he lashed out in that sort of way. It was interesting how this one tragedy became so politicized. It's just everything that happens is so politicized, and it's not really about anything in this video, but I just wanted to cover this topic as well. Something else happened in New York. You guys remember in May of 2023, we spoke about it. The Michael Jackson the Michael Jackson impersonator Jordan Neely was choked to death by Daniel Penny, a former Marine, on the train. And today they had Daniel Penny's trial. Daniel Penny's trial came to an end, and Daniel Penny was found not guilty on all charges. You know, so again, this is politicized. People on the left are saying that it was a racist crime, and initially I thought that as well. You know what I mean? I have a video on it. When Jordan Neely first died, I thought, well, this is a vigilante attack. This is like Bernie Getz in the 1980s, attacking, killing three black youth on the train in like 85, right? So that kind of reminded me of that. But, upon further inspection, like, yeah, he didn't have to kill him. I still feel like he used excessive force. He really didn't have to kill the guy. You know, the point of it was he and another guy, and the other guy was a black guy, so it really wasn't racially motivated at all. A lot of the people that Jordan Neely was attacking were black passengers as well. I feel like they still use excessive force. They went too far when it came to this. But the point of both these cases is just because people feel justified, like just because there's a huge homeless problem in New York City, and when it comes to the subway, people don't feel safe on the subway because of the mentally unstable people, right? Pushing people from the train tracks, hurling shit, literal shit at them, throwing it in their faces. People don't feel safe. So Jordan Neely was a symptom of that. And if Jordan Neely had only gotten help, right, to get off drugs and to get better, right, and to be less violent, maybe then he would not have passed away. Now, should he have passed away? No. I feel like Daniel Penny used excessive force, but at the same time, and did he have the right? Another thing too, Daniel Penny didn't have the right to attack Jordan Neely. You know what I mean? Like, he overstepped his boundaries. Either Daniel Penny or the other guy. You know what I mean? But like both these guys are like viewed as martyrs, but people don't have the right, I feel like, to take another person's life just because they feel like what that person either has done or is doing is unjust. We live in a real world. We don't live in Batman. You know what I mean? We can't take the law into our own hands. Whether it's a billionaire CEO like Brian Thompson or a young black man like Jordan Neely, you don't have the right, I feel like, to take the law into your own hands and feel like, okay, well, nobody's helping me, or nobody's helping these strap hangers, right? These pedestrians. Well, not pedestrians because they're not walking, but these commuters, right? And so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna choke this kid out who's I'm twice his size, and I'm a Marine, right? And I'm probably trained in mixed martial arts or whatever have you. You know what I mean? So of course they're turning this into a political issue. They're making these guys. People are making these guys martyrs. Both people on the left making uh uh Luigi a martyr, and people on the right making Daniel Penny a martyr. And neither one had the right to do what they did. You know what I mean? Jordan Neely had a family. Brian Thompson had a family as well. I know that doesn't really make up for it. You know what I mean? Anybody that was victimized by either Neely on the train or victimized by Brian Thompson through his policies, more so Brian Thompson, because healthcare, I'm a big proponent of Medicare for all. I believe in Medicare for all. I believe it's a mark of a civilized society to have a national healthcare system. Even in other countries, like I said, in other countries, Britain, for example, you have Canada. I'm watching uh, Pierre Pierre Poilievre, um, the the leader of the Conservative Party in Canada, debating Justin Trudeau, but never once does it come up. Okay, we're going to scrap the national healthcare system in Canada, right? And you see it in the UK. People might not be on the left like Keir Starmer, or they might be on the right like Rishi Sunak, or on the right like Boris Johnson. But even right wingers in the UK, Margaret Thatcher, the most famous of them, was not talking about completely scrapping or cutting the NHS. So you need that sort of thing in a civilized society. That's part. I feel like that's an extension of the social contract in a sense, and to commoditize and commercialize health and to put it in the hands of these billionaires and trillionaires is a travesty. Now, people will argue, people that come from Canada or people that come from the UK or come from the Scandinavian countries, for example, will argue, well, it's more fit, and they're proponents of the capitalist-based system. They're like, oh, well, it's more efficient, right? It could service more people. But the public option needs to exist for, you know, people that can't afford, um, the market-based option. That's why we have mixed economies. We have socialistic programs on the one hand, like public schools, for example, public libraries, public roads, infrastructure projects to service the entire public, and then we have private options of those same things. They have private schools, private libraries, and sometimes in really exclusive communities, private roads. So, are you to argue then that because private roads are quieter and the traffic is more expedient, are you then to argue that we should just get rid of public roads because public roads have tremendous traffic and public roads are by their very nature open to the public? No, you wouldn't argue such a ludicrous thing. So why argue it in terms of healthcare? And another thing, the police department is a public institution. Why public institutions are better? One, because they service all, even the economically disadvantaged. Two, when they commit atrocities, you can call them the task with much more ease and impunity than you can uh, with private citizens like Daniel Penny, a wannabe cop, for example, or George Zimmerman, another wannabe police officer, race soldier, vigilante, as it were. You can't call these people a task because their job is not to protect and serve, but why are they putting their nose in the business where, again, it doesn't belong? Anyway, guys, that's all I wanted to say about these two cases. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to see my next video is coming out. Love you guys. Peace.